explain what a botnet is.
Okay, botnet. Those of you, how many of you here have a Windows PC? Okay, you are potential members of a botnet. Okay? Essentially what a botnet is, they infect your computers with viruses, malware. So you don't know this, but your computer is now part of a bigger network. And they will use your computer to attack other computers and systems. Most common operating system they target is going to be Windows, because Windows is the most popular one, plus has a quote-unquote wonderful security record. The Mac users, you're relatively safe, relatively, because Macs are harder to attack. They're not impossible. So the botnets, they vary in size, but it's like, they're nasty. Spam, unsolicited email, there's lots of problems with it. Obviously, okay, like a spam run. Sending spam, like how many emails do you think they're sending in a spam run? How many emails at one go? We send millions, okay? Millions. It's not a case, a lot of this is done at really, really high volume. Crazy high volume. We see, for example, what we call a dictionary attack. What it is that they will try to send to every common name and every common word at a domain name. It's generated, you know, junk. They've sent huge volumes. Yes.
Yes, I have about this problem. I think it's a problem that you make your mail server as open relay. You didn't close it, so or I'm buying a domain to make it spammer.
Okay, because you make money from it. Okay, it's true, you're right. Certain mail servers, if they're not configured correctly, can be abused to send email. It's like an open relay. That happens, of course. But the thing with spam is all about money. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's take fake pharma again, because it's a nice example. If I sell you some illegal, unlicensed Viagra as an affiliate of one of these companies, I could get paid $20 per sale. If I send 1 million emails and I have a click-through rate of, I don't know, let's say 1%. How many click-throughs do I have? 10,000. So you can put maths. Right. So if I have a conversion rate of 1% of the 10,000, 100. And I'm making how much per sale? 20. So I made $2,000 in an hour. Now do you understand why spam is popular? I mean, that's just as an example. If you look at adult sites, they will pay between $10 and $50 per sign-up. Other types of services, it might pay between $1 or $2 to more. Mortgage spam, mortgages, finance. There was one company in Ireland who was paying me, and I was doing it legitimately without spamming, I was being paid €50 per lead. Just for a sales lead. I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't selling anything. Just for the person to contact them, we're paying €50. So there's a lot of money to be made. So they say 85% of the email in the world is spam. As a hosting company, I would say that's actually conservative. We see in many cases more than 90%. Spam is evil. It wastes a lot of time and resources. Now here's an example of a spam, which is also a phishing email using a UTLD. So you look at the domain, so it's amazon.company. So that's an example of a fish.
Most probably people don't look at the URL at the bottom of the browser.
Oh, of course they don't. Of course they don't. They just click. I mean, we look because we're trained to. But does your mother look? Like my mother, I use my mother as an example, by the way, all the time, with her permission. My mother sends me every type of spam and phishing email imaginable she gets. She always sends them to me and goes, is this real? And invariably, it is so spammy that my corporate mail filter blocks it, and I have to release the email to myself 24 hours after she sends it, and then reply and go, no, it's not real. But you know, that's the thing, the average user doesn't know. So phishing attacks, you click on the link in the email, it'll take you through to a page that looks like the Amazon website, but obviously isn't. So they're going to they target anywhere where there's going to be personal information collected and payment information. Some of the clever ones, what they'll do is they'll construct information from multiple sources. Basically, this is all evil. Excuse me. So, factors that allow abuse to succeed. Low price. So, if you look at domain names, how much does the domain name cost to register? If you're spending, what's the most expensive UTLD? Tom?
50,000, thank God, trust.
Right, so for 50,000, if you spend $50,000 on a domain name, are you going to use it for spam? Probably not, okay? If you spend like $1 on a domain name, .science, for example, you probably don't care. You could register, I don't know, a couple of hundred domains. As each domain is blacklisted, you just move to another one. The economic incentive, as I mentioned to the young lady down the back, lax registration policies, lack of enforcement, or lax and or inconsistent enforcement. I mean, there's some arguments around this, okay? I mean, it's not as clear cut. You know, the balance for you is trying to allow people to register domain names quickly and easily, but not allow abuse. So, some types of abuse are more dangerous than others. If you think about the spear phishing attack against Sony, you all heard of the Sony hack?
Yes.
When did that happen?
I think last year or this year. I think from North Korea, right?
Well, apparently.
And there is some attack from the North Korea internet down after 2 months or something like this. I'm right?
Yeah.
No, it was a big media story. I mean, if you follow any of the tech press, you probably heard about the Sony hack. Even if you didn't follow the tech press, it was on the front. It was front page news worldwide. So domain name abuse again. Okay, spam, phishing, malware,
Most
botnets.
importantly, the Sony hack cost Sony a lot of money because they canceled the release of a movie. It was about it was billions of dollars in losses because of that Sony hack.
Plus the loss of reputation as well.
Yeah.
The reputational damage as the story unfolded, more things came out.
Well, it turns out a lot of personal confidential emails and documents also were stolen as part of the hack and gradually released. So it became very embarrassing, some of the details of the email.
Yeah, but some of the things that Sony staff and Sony executives were saying to each other about some of
Their clients.
about their clients. Okay, word of caution. If you want to insult somebody, do it orally, don't put it in writing. Your email will be found. In the case of Sony, a lot of emails where, I mean, you can imagine an exchange between two people saying, oh, you know, Madonna is an idiot or something. I mean, I've got Madonna as an example. Okay, so abuse, of course, can morph over time. You know, it can change. The other thing as well with regards to this is the bad guys, the scumbags, the criminals, the scum of the internet, they're not stupid. They're numerous. There's more of them coming online all the time, and they will try to abuse every technology. So, for example, at the moment, a lot of us have these wearable tracking devices. Somebody's already worked out how to hack these, which is charming. You know, Internet of Things, all these new technologies, they will try to abuse it. So if you can change things, you can make it more difficult for them, but they will always find some new way to ruin your life, because that's what they do. So, as this is a presentation for domain people, also going to use a domain. So, different TLDs, different profiles, so different business models, open versus eligibility criteria, brand, closed. So one can argue that the most secure domain is going to be the .brand. So, if, for example, Sony knew how to operate computers without causing major headaches for themselves, theoretically, .sony would be a super secure domain space. And who's a .brand? Okay, Google, for example, have .google, so Tom yesterday showed you com.google. How many people will register .google domains?
What?
One. You know the answer, they're meant to answer this.
Better move this along.
Yes, okay, so the thing is that because it's closed, it shouldn't be open, there should be no abuse. Or if it's completely open, it's going to be more susceptible to abuse, potentially. The pricing, the distribution model, these all come into play. And that's
So on the pricing, anytime the TLD has a huge price promotion where they want to give their names away or do it for $1, there'll be a huge prevalence of domain name abuse, because bad actors are attracted to that type of pricing model.
So a cheap domain is going to be attractive. And of course, there's more to do with over time. It varies. Abuse, and every TLD, no matter what you do, your TLD will have some abuse. And for us as a hosting company, we see a lot of abuse through people hacking installs of WordPress, Joomla, other content management systems. They don't keep them up to date, they get compromised, and before we can do anything, they've already started sending spam or doing something else. Yeah, that's kind of obvious. So, the argument they're saying, good abuse mitigation is a good idea for business. So if you're TLD or you're CCTLD, or if you're not a TLD operator, if you're a network operator, if your network is clean, this is good for business. For example, if your network is not trusted, you're going to have difficulty sending email to big email providers. So big email providers, we're talking about Yahoo, Google, and Microsoft. Between the three of those, they have millions and millions of users. If your mail servers are blacklisted, you can't send them mail. Your question? Why not? Okay, all right.
And just to be clear, the argument, obviously, every TLD has their positioning. They want to be seen as we're the safe, secure place to conduct business, right? It's a great argument. As it turns out, there's a new class of service providers that have emerged to serve that need. So this company we're talking about is actually their main service right now. So they're helping a lot of registries make sure their domain names are free of malware and other types of domain name abuse.
And if you're not a CCTLD or GTLD, you can still talk to this company and get their service. Or if you're a hosting provider or an ISP, you can subscribe to a number of alert services that will tell you about bad activity on your network. If anybody needs any information, I have that email there, I can send you the information. I hate Windows so much. Effective mitigation, reducing time to harm. The idea here is that the longer an abusive domain is live, the more damage it can do. If you have good abuse mitigation in place, then you're not an attractive target. So for example, Tom has signed the .pharmacy RA, so that means that anybody who wants to use fake pharma domains can't use his registrar. They can't. So they can, I think, go to his registrar, register a domain name, but he'll get a report from LegitScript and the domain will be dead, gone. So if you wanted to register domains or do certain things, you're not going to use his company. You're not going to use mine either, because we're notorious for taking people offline. Okay, best practices. So, align operation procedures and processes to support the policy, so consistency. Understand what's happening in the domain space. In other words, know what's going on outside, not just your own space. Monitoring things, analyzing things. There's a lot of data that you can mine. For those of you like a CCTLDs, you have access to certain data. If you're a hosting provider or an ISP, you still have access to a lot of data that you can use to help keep the stuff clean. And again, if anybody needs any help with this kind of thing, email me. I know everybody in the space. My chosen specialized subject, how to keep your TLD clean. Yay! Abuse data detection, enforcement. So, okay, for example, as a CCTLD, do you have a policy around this? What do you do? If a domain name is only being used for phishing or malware or something like that, does your CCTLD have a policy? Now, some CCTLDs do, some don't. So it's something just to think about. Maybe you should have a look at it. Are you also documenting things? Again, keeping records of what's happened in the past, what kind of issues you've had. And again, measuring metrics, keeping track of things. All good so far? Yes.
You seem to have more authority over the technical abuse than the content abuse. I mean, in the spam or you can, as a registrar, detect and take the action without waiting for a form. That's the correct order. This is.
Oh well, it's up to you as a registrar. You have choices. Now, for us as a registrar, we will take action against reports of this technical type of abuse. So if I get reports of spam, phishing, malware, etc., if it's hosted by us, we can go and investigate deeply. We can see, is it a compromised website or is it something else? We can take action. If it's a content issue, as my company, we will not take action. We will inform our client that a complaint has been received. We will not take action. So, kind of typical scenario we get is, so let's say one of my clients puts up something saying, Egypt is a horrible country, the food is terrible, the people are ugly. Just as an example, okay? And you are personally offended by this because you have a lot of pride in Egypt. So you write to us and you say, this website contains offensive material talking about Egypt, take it down. I'm not going to. I'll pass your complaint to my client, and my client can respond to you or ignore you. I don't care.
So the caveat to that is, first of all, our legal terms and conditions basically say we can do anything we want.
Yes, they have to.
So we tell you, if I feel like taking it down, I'll take it down. That's within my rights. In the U.S. anyway, if this is maybe it's a business contacting you saying that website has a copyright infringement, right? In the U.S. we have something called safe harbor. So a safe harbor means that if I'm not liable for content on a website, if I'm simply the web host or the domain name registrar, I have safe harbor. But if I get a legitimate complaint that I do have to, like in the U.S. is a takedown for copyright notices, I do have to respond to copyright complaints. But I'm not liable for any content on a website or domain name.
But the thing we find in Europe is that some of this stuff isn't as clearly defined. So under US law, he has the DMCA. So the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, it does two things. One, it forces him to take action against on complaints, but it also offers him protection. Under Irish law, I don't have that. What I do have is under European law, I have the mere conduit status, which means as I'm just the registrar hosting provider, ISP. I'm not responsible for the actions of all my users, but once I am informed of an issue, I cannot ignore it. Doesn't mean I have to do anything. This is all with the allegations anyway. So, if, for example, like in our terms and conditions, if you spam from my servers, I will cut you off. If I get reports from Spamcough about you, I will cut you off and I will fine you. We don't enforce that all the time, but it's in our terms and conditions. Because from our perspective, if you are spamming, you are having a negative impact on my other customers. So I don't want you as a client. Go somewhere else. Go to, what do we say?
One-on-one.
Yeah, send us one-on-one.
Go to GoDaddy.
No, we don't say that right now. It would be nice to go, Daddy. Okay. Couple more slides.
In most times you find your complaint, I mean the spam is intentionally or it is just the website got compromised?
We get both. We get both. We get some people who are very, very, what's the word I'm looking for, naive, who think that because they're able to collect email addresses, like you could go online and you can find a bit of software and you can say to that bit of software, get me every single email address in Cairo, okay? And that bit of software will go off and will do its work, and it'll come back in an hour or 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours, and it will give you a massive list of email addresses that it has found on the internet for websites it sees as being in Cairo or having something to do with Cairo. That's very easy to do. I can get some software for free, other software I can pay, I don't know, $10. It's really easy. I can download another bit of software either for free or pay $10 or $20, which will allow me to send out 100 million emails in like 2 hours. So the cost of sending the email is very, very low. There are companies out there that will help me do this. Some of them legitimate, some of them not. So you get some people who are just naive. They think they can do it. You get others who sign up to our services. Like we were talking earlier about the ad grace period, where somebody signs up for your services, abuses your services, and then you have to shut them down. We get that as well. But obviously, for us as a company, the bulk of the abuse is through compromised websites. That's just more about different things to do with the abuse mitigation system. Detecting abuse, basically use reliable sources of information. That's the key thing. If you're using a trusted provider, the likelihood of them saying that something is bad when it's not is reduced. But you have to make sure you're using a reputable provider. There's a couple of these other people out there who work in the anti-abuse space. Being blunt about it, they're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. You send them one email, you're immediately flagged as the worst spammer in the world. Whereas you've got other ones, they're professional organizations, they do this for a living, and they keep track of things, and they can say, yes, this network is good, this network is bad, this is good, this is bad, etc., etc. So, you need to go through all that. I mean, the other thing as well, no one vendor will catch all the abuse, because not everybody has access to all the data. Monitoring versus sampling. And then, of course, analyzing it. What are you going to do with it? Depending on the type of abuse. As a registry, if you are a registry, your options are quite limited. All you can do as a registry is pull the name. You can't take, part of a website offline. You don't have that level of control. As a registrar, when you don't host the domain, you have the same problem. Tom doesn't do any hosting, well, very little. So if he gets an abuse report about a domain name, all he can do is decide to pull the domain completely or not do anything. There is no way for him to say, I'm just going to take the images directory offline. The hosting company has more control over Obvious things that get more interesting, and I put interesting in large inverted commas. Questions of child pornography, child abuse material. This is something which is specialised. Normally you'd have to go to law enforcement. It's not an area that most people would feel comfortable with. It's incredibly disturbing. If you get reports of this kind of thing, you probably want to hand it off to people who specialise in this. Is there a hotline here in Egypt? No? Hotline for child protection online?
I think so. So.
Globally there's inhope.org, which runs all the hotlines around the world. So in most countries, there is a hotline service. It's usually kind of volunteer, non-for-profit. And what they do is they take reports from the public about, it's mainly to do with child protection. And then they would report the genuine abuse to law enforcement. If you don't have something in country, have a look at inhope.org. It's a good resource. But you know, for asking one of us to start looking at child-related stuff, it's like, no thank you. I don't want to look at that stuff. Not something we're comfortable with. And then that's all the different areas where things come in. The one thing they're missing here is hosting. There's no mention like hosting companies or ISPs. You know, then one around costs. You know, you can do a lot of this stuff in-house. There are a couple of commercial services. Domain Assured is from NCC Group. Name Sentry is from Architellus. It's their slide deck. But there's other companies out there that can give you different bits of information. Any questions? Was this terribly boring? Are we still alive? You are, okay.
All right, guys, so the last thing I want to do before we break for lunch at 1:30 is to go back to our SWOT analysis. And so, in particular, we have a pretty empty slide on threats. Are you guys worried about this particular threat in your CCTLD?
I think we had the 3 cases about phishing before.
Yeah.
One of our universities, someone using they were tried for phishing the bank or something, but our security team solved it. We closed the site for a while till they solved it.
So I'm going to put that down as a threat because there are some TLDs whose brand as a TLD has been harmed because of the high incidence of domain abuse, be it spam or malware. There's actually reports put out by this company where they identify the top 10 TLDs where the most malware exists. Like .tk is on that list. It's number 2 in terms of domain names under management, right? 60 million names or something. But since they're free, it attracts a lot of bad actors. So domain name abuse is definitely a threat. So you might want to think about what your plan is to make sure that your TLD is secure from that. Any ideas on threats? This is, I guess, we're talking about EG in this case, right? So abuse covers spam, malware, botnets, that sort of thing. And how proactive you are. VeriSign, for example, has decided as part of their positioning in the marketplace that they're going to really focus heavily on domain name abuse. And so they have value-added services they offer as registry services that we can sign up for, and we can subscribe to it, and they will tell us if any domain names at our registrar are being used in an abusive manner. And so they're trying to be proactive in the .com space to make sure .com is much more pristine than some of these new TLDs. Any ideas on, other ideas on threats to .eg in particular as a CCTLD?
It's competing with low prices, risky threat. I
So
mean,
competing with other TLDs, you mean?
yeah,
So,
because the trend of domain name prices is really low, and to compete with them, you have to have a competitive.
so it's pricing.
Maybe offer something extra. Maybe, something that adds value. I'm not sure what, but we're seeing that the new TLDs, where several of them are trying to build extra value around it. So it's not just a domain name that you're registering.
What new TLDs are the biggest threats to .eg? What TLDs are the biggest threats? Aside from .com, what new TLDs do you think are the biggest threats?
Or is it all of them?
The Facebook, but this is not the TLD, the Facebook pages. This is not the TLD.
So social media?
Yes.
Social media.
Okay, so we have that up here as well on my list over here. Social media is a threat.
So you're basically saying domain names become less relevant, right?
I mean, somebody else identified, not here, it was on a blog post there recently, reading, the two big threats are social media and apps. What do you think about it? I mean, if you open up your phone, you probably have 10, 20, 30 apps that allow you to access information, do things, but you don't have to worry about the domain name.
So I'm going to ask a question that I've already asked. What new TLDs are a threat to .eg? What new TLDs?
Everything social is bad.
No, let's name them. What are the top 3 threats in terms of new TLDs? Top 3.
New TLD or old?
New ones. What new ones, the top 3, do you think threaten .eg?
I think maybe a website.
Okay?
I think there is no specific TLD because customers focus mainly on the .com. So they don't
I'm obviously disagreeing, but go ahead. I'll tell you my ideas in a second. Go ahead.
I don't have specific TLDs, but maybe those working on tourism, because this is one field.
Okay.
The .eg
But
could
in
have.
fact, Egypt.travel was one of the early adopters of .travel. I'm sorry? I think .arab is an obvious threat.
Egypt.travel was a defensive one.
No, I thought they used it. They advertised, they did some advertising with it. I thought it was actually in use. No?
It is?
Yeah, I don't know if it is today,
I have
but at some point I thought they were an active user. Yeah, I mean, I think if I was a business owner in Cairo, I think, and I wanted to identify with the Arabic community, .arab is an obvious TLD that could pull users away from your CCTLD.
Yeah, I was just going to say also .arab and also other TLDs that, .shabaka and again,
The IDN, right?
other TLDs.
So the Arabic IDNs are an obvious threat. There's a .africa coming out. You don't feel like that would take users away from .eg.
Geographic, script, and language.
Are there any? So there's.
Social, tourism.
We have two cities that have a lot of name around the world, like Cairo and Alexandria. But I don't know if someone have a new GTLD by these names.
I don't think there's a .Cairo, but there's a lot in the Middle East. There's Dubai, Doha, Abu Dhabi. So the next round, there could well be a .Cairo. So that's a good point. It could come in the next few years, right?
There's around 20 cities near Cairo. I think one of them is in the USA.
So there are other cities called Cairo. Yeah. So it's whoever applies for it first. So obviously Egypt has the biggest city, but they might not get it if someone else applies for Cairo. Like someone applied for my hometown, Boston. There's a lot of Bostons around the world, but hopefully they have policies that says you don't have to live in Massachusetts to get a .Boston. So if you're in Texas will let you get Boston too. It's just a different market segment. So Cairo, hopefully, if they're smart, like Cairo, Texas, which there might be one, which they will make this open to people in Egypt too. Now it competes with .eg. Right, so I definitely, there's some very specific TLDs that are already coming out that I do think will compete with .eg. Even .me, if you want to serve the Middle East market, is there. .arab, .africa is coming out as well. All these are potential threats. You mentioned .website, there's going to be a .site, there's a .host. What are the other common ones that haven't been decided yet?
.blog.
.blog.
I think .blog should be a very, very big one.
There's also a .web coming out.
I wouldn't hold my breath for that one. I think that's going to be held up in litigation for years.
Well, there's no litigation yet.
Yet. Being the operative word.
Yeah. So there's definitely threats to new TLDs. We talked about the fact that there's threats from social media and apps. Any other responsible threats? So domain name abuse, clearly. What do you guys do for DDoS protection?
For
DDoS. So, we're talking about domain name abuse, which is mainly the use of a domain name to do malware. But your registry could be attacked as well for DDoS. And if it turns out that you can't withstand a DDoS attack, your customers will go somewhere else. Because I can tell you, VeriSign gets an attack every day, and no one knows it because they're so good at it. Right? That's part of their strength.
I think we have some of this attacks as a revolution in for the government sides.
Yeah, so DDoS is a definite threat. Because if you get hit by DDoS, your customers will see you if you don't handle it well. That's an F, right? If you get hit and you don't handle it well, your customers lose faith in you as a registry. Right? So it's a definite threat to your business. If you get hacked, right? Security is a huge threat.
Several CCTLDs have been targeted over the last 2 years by hackers. The hackers are not going after the CCTLD, they're going after your users. So they're targeting high-profile domains. So specifically Google, Yahoo, Microsoft. These are 3 of the most popular targets. So in 2013, hackers infiltrated the .ie CCTLD, and they redirected both yahoo.ie and google.ie. Around the same time, they did 3 or 4 other CCTLDs. I can't remember which ones, but they're not interested in your data. They don't care. It's your users that care about.
And the impact is on your reputation.
Yes.
Can you be? Is this a TLD that can be trusted to be stable, secure, or not? Right. And so again, this is a key differentiator in the marketplace.
Another threat, I think, regarding the law that is under construction now for organizing and defining the cybercrime. The threat maybe is delaying the issuance of this law, or canceling, but this is long project. I mean, delaying or taking long time.
Okay.
It should be there. It should be organizing the whole cyberspace, and there should be I can say, a legislative infrastructure about the privacy, the freedom of information.
And the thing is this, is that you say the Egyptian government can introduce legislation which they can make binding on .eg. They won't be able to do anything with non-EG domains. They can try, but it won't have any impact.
Yes.
I mean, you can hypothetically do lots of things, but realistically you can't.
But now you had a point?
Yeah. I was just going to suggest that we add under new TLDs with pricing also the target market.
The vertical market.
Yeah.
So there's a .build, for example, going after the construction industry. Right? There's a .dentist, .plumber. So all those should take users away.
.horse.
.horse.
Yeah, and it is very unlikely to have someone who can register multiple domains for the same purpose. So.
Well, this is the argument I've said, always made about promoting new TLD, but promoting any TLD is the average small business probably only registers one domain. They might register two, but beyond that, you know, the number just shrinks massively. You take, say, an entrepreneur. So imagine Mohammed, okay? Okay, sorry, Mohammed. So, that's okay. So Mohammed might register a domain name for himself as his own personal identity, and he might register another one for his business. Okay, you can go now. But he's not going to register 20 more domains just for fun.
I don't agree that DDoS will be one of our threats.
Okay.
In general, threats for any website or any service on the internet, but especially regarding the CTLD, I think it is the same as the others. Why we
the same as what else? What others?
Others registrars or other registry.
So you're
any service running on the internet can be facing DDoS. It's not particular to the registry.
No, it's compared to your competition.
Okay,
So the question is, how many data centers do you have?
How many data centers?
How many data
Yeah.
centers? What?
1 million.
VeriSign has maybe a dozen,
that we know of.
right? So compared to, if .com is your competition, VeriSign has you beat.
So you compare with the same,
It's,
yeah, okay.
all this, every one of these is relative to your competition,
Yeah.
right?
And the other thing as well is something to think about. Okay, this region of the world, you have, how can I put this diplomatically, political instability, okay? I'm trying my best to be diplomatic. One of the things that a lot is happening more and more is that different groups are now going online and they're attacking national resources. You know, so if I...
They use that as a refuge.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Government entity, not our
Yes.
system.
So that's basically my point. Yeah, I thought you were going like .cn for China. Politics has intruded on the registry. They keep introducing these new policies because one week it's okay for international companies to have a name, next week it's not. So politics kind of interfere. So that's a risk. But the other thing is infrastructure risk.
Yeah.
I don't know if it pertains to Egypt, like we heard about in other places about electricity is not reliable, right? That affects your data center, right? So is there an infrastructure risk specific to the CCTLD?
There might not be.
I don't know.
There might not be. But it's
Okay.
something, like we're just thinking things through. You know, are you higher risk because of something? You know, what is a potential risk?
I think you know, .bf you mentioned had some electricity issues, and that infrastructure risk can impact the trust of the brand.
In our case, maybe as we are both in different services, so this problem is not the issue in our case. We
Right.
have generator, we have radio speed, and level, and so on. But in general, you are right.
Okay, what other threats do we
So
have?
I think we've covered a lot of the threats. I put political threats. You know, we're seeing, for example, I'll pick on Turkey. There's some movement there that maybe sometimes they censor Twitter and Facebook. You know, if you're a business, you don't like to see that, obviously, from your government, and that affects the trust of the domain name system.
I mean, like we've seen in several European countries where the government has turned around and said, right, you ISPs, you need to turn on a blocking system now. And what they're doing is they're giving the ISPs a list of domain names and saying you have to block access to these domains. Now the problem is, in most of the time, there's no transparency about how the domains end up on the list. There's no transparency about how you can get a domain removed from the list. it's a bit crazy. And this is happening across Europe. Prime example, the Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay is blocked by a lot of ISPs. Now you can say, okay, the Pirate Bay is infringing, it's doing this, it's doing that. The problem is that the line between, you know, infringement and free speech, there's lots of things there that can be problematic.
So let's spend a few minutes on opportunities as well. So any other suggestions on opportunities for .eg, what they could be doing? And part of these, I guess, are counterbalances to your threats, right? So how can you counterbalance some of these threats? For example, people might be interested in geographic names. How do you make sure you don't lose users to .arab or .africa?
What if we choose some policies?
Okay, so you can revise policies.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can open up your policies, you can revise them. I mean, again, this comes back down to positioning. You know, making .eg the go-to domain for Egypt. Actually, I noticed last night after the conversation we had yesterday, when we went for dinner and we're coming back, I was looking at the billboards, and a lot of them, they don't have any domain name. They have a Twitter handle or a Facebook icon. That's it.
Twitter is not very common.
No, but there's no URLs, which is what I care about.
Anything else for opportunities?
Full amount.
So if you feel really good about your DDoS protection and your infrastructure that you put into place, that's an opportunity to brag about, right? We've already thought this through. We're highly secure. We're well established.
And the services you can use.
I'm sorry?
And with the new disaster recovery site also.
Yeah, fantastic, right? So you should use that to your advantage. Say, don't deal with this new TLD registry like .arab. You don't know, they've only been around for a year.
But you can talk to the likes of, say, Community DNS and others. They will help you if you want to get, more secondary and tertiary name servers and things like that. They can do that. They do it. I know they do a lot of stuff for some of the smaller CCTLDs. They charge the big ones, essentially. Excuse me?
It's really free. Actually, we have the one in
E-government?
yes, and it's free also.
Governmental services.
You can check it.
There's several entities that do this, either for free or cheap.
So we talked about the large pool of available names. There are different ways you can advertise them, right? So one of the things we've done, for example, is we might publish. Here's the top 500 Egyptian words that are still available for registration. Right, so you tell people, you don't just say large number of words, you give them a list. Right, here's the most popular the short. Here's a list of 4 characters. I mean, I don't know about Arabic, right? But for ASCII, alphanumeric, you can say here are all the 3-letter words that are still available in .eg.
Well,
Here's all the 4-letter words.
it's probably the same, surely, in Arabic you have characters, yes? When you're writing Arabic, it has characters. Okay, so I assume that shorter is better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we don't have abbreviations.
Abbreviations.
Oh, okay.
But I think certainly the opportunity is alphanumeric here because you.
The opportunity is more alphanumeric, obviously. But the other one, okay, so he's saying, the top ones that are available. Another strategy might be publish the list of deleted domains. These are the domains that have been deleted. So we set up and we run an actual service. It's a very simple service.
Yeah.
It's incredibly simple. Is this thing working, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so we have this that we do primarily for .ie domains. And it's very simple. All we do is we take the data from the registry, we pull it in and we republish it, but then we allow you to kind of play with the data a little. So you can find things like deleted domain names that are 4 characters long, deleted domain names that are 5 characters long, or okay, I have access to extra tools that aren't public, so the system will give me personally a list of all the domains that are made up of 1 word. And you can see some of the domains aren't bad, like unlocking.ie is available, huge.ie.
Home pages.
Yeah.
So imagine you could do this for unregistered names too. Right, here's all the 3-letter words still available in .eg. So this, obviously today, is not so good if you need a trademark at the second level. But once you go through the process to open up that second level namespace, then you can advertise how many names are out there. And I think there'd be quite a bit of interest for it.
You know, I mean, the thing is, like, okay, for example, with the dictionary words in English, you have an expat community as well. You have English speakers, you have French speakers. You know, you could do is, and these are just completely random thoughts. You could take the common French dictionary, you could take the Collins English dictionary.
Go with EG, something like this.
Whatever, I mean, it's just what you want to, what you're doing is just trying to, you know, make it so that people are having kind of fun with the TLD. It's, you know, get people to kind of play with coming up with domains.
So I have an idea which you can do that doesn't require you to change any of your policies, right?
Which
And
involves, how much do you make out of it?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, ideas are cheap, okay?
Okay.
Ideas are free. My idea is that you publish a directory. You said you had 600 names at the second level. You publish the 600 trademark owners who have registered domain names.eg. It's a free service that the registry does. So now you're promoting those 600 trademark owners. So now, without changing any policy, you've created a value-added service for a trademark owner who has an Egyptian trademark to get into that directory. Free service.
I have also a new idea that when we finish the automation, we can have an agreement with the governmental portal to be listed as a one-off electronic services, and we can do that.
Yeah,
Available for one of the most websites used by the Egyptian society.
So the thing is, once you move to COCA and a more automated system, it means certain things will become way easier, not just for you, but for your registrars. You know, the options once you're automated like that, as we say in English, the world is your oyster. I have no idea why it's an oyster, but it's an oyster.
Let me show you what .coop is doing. Anyone with a .coop domain name goes into the .coop directory, and they create a directory of all the .coop domain names, and they actually, in this case, display it on a map. I don't know if there's any in Egypt, which you'll see. If I zoom out, there's .coop right here. Right, so they actually have, using Google Maps, they show where all the co-ops are in the world. So if I went to, so here you can see here, there's 2 co-ops, one in Jerusalem, one in Tel Aviv. Let's see if I can find a few more. There's actually 3. If I go over up to there's a few in Cyprus.
And the kind of things that, you know, okay, so directory is one idea. You think about other things like that, something that, you know, helps them. So for example, you as the registry, you have what we call, you have market power, buying power. So maybe you could go to Bing and to Google and get promo codes for online advertising, for example, and distribute these via your registrars. Just as
So
an
this doesn't require you to wait, doesn't require you to change any policies. Here are the co-ops, for example, in Italy. This would be very cool to show a Google map of Egypt, and all the trademark owners who have .eg domain names, you can display where they are in Egypt. Right, nice value-added service, it's very, at very little cost. So just an idea.
You think we could make some auction about some domain name?
You could, yeah. Of course you could. If your policies, that's something when your policies are more flexible. I mean, you couldn't do it now because your policy is too restrictive. But let's say for argument's sake, okay. Let's take the hotels.eg example, okay? Hotels.eg, flights.eg, tour, you know, some of these ones like that. These are inherently valuable domains. Pyramids.eg. Luxor.eg, you might want to be a bit careful with some of the place names, but in general, like looking at generics where there's no possible conflict.
Well, Luxor would go perhaps to the tourism board.
Exactly.
That'd be a natural.
You might want to be, you know, careful about place names. But pyramids, nobody owns the pyramids. Well, I mean, it's, you know, pyramids is the word. So, okay, so let's say, how much would you pay for pyramids.eg as an investor? Minimum bid.
I'll give you 10,000.
So, see, he's not even thinking about it, he can give you 10,000. Now, if you can take that 10,000 and put it in a little pot in the corner, that's 10,000 you can spend on, you know, investing in marketing, other promotions. You can put the money back in, but you need to be able to, you know, funnel that money back into it. Otherwise, there's no point. But like that, you know, you take a good generic domain, you're going to get a couple of thousand per domain name easily.
Want to see if there's any ads for pyramids. See if I can get this to come back. But yeah, certainly the premium names are a great opportunity.
You'll get ads from Viator.
And this is, again, I was talking about vaporware earlier this week. This is something that you can do a test on without actually committing to anything. So you send out a request for expressions of interest. We're doing a survey. You know, if we offer these 10 or 30 premium words to someone who agreed to develop working websites, who would be interested? So you take expressions of interest as a first phase before you actually commit to anything. So obviously if I did a search on pyramids, there are some ads for it. So I know a word like pyramids.eg is I could monetize pretty quickly through Google Ads.
If you do a search for hotels, the page was filled with ads.
Yeah.
But for some reason, how did you not just get an Arabic version of Google?
It defaults.
Mine doesn't.
Google forces a country.
Yeah,
I know that. Mine is doing Google.eg, but in English.
I could have picked English.
I don't know why.
All right, any other ideas?
Good.
Any more ideas for the SWOT for .eg? So I know I was going to talk about an action plan. You've already got your game plan thought through, so we won't presume to do that for you. But
I think before about subdomains for some use like blog.eg or something like this, but I think it's not. You said it's.
well, here's my reaction to that. Is if you want to introduce more subdomains, do the ones you already have they proven to be helpful and useful?
Yes.
So if you think that you have validation of subdomains, then by all means add more. So I don't know if they have a lot of interest in it.
But the other thing as well is if you have multiple subdomains, okay, gov.eg, for example, is clear. It's very, very clear. Internationally, people understand it. edu.eg or ac.eg, again, that's clear. People understand that. If you start adding lots of different ones, then people are going to start confusing domain names with subdomains.
But I think people will not be confusing about the new style we have now.
No, but what I'm getting at is like, you don't have a huge number of domains registered.
Yes.
So why complicate things?
Yes.
You know, try to fill the namespace that you have rather than making the namespace bigger. I mean, think about it in terms of efficiency. You know, why would you heat Why would you heat a room this size if there's only one person in it? Just as a stupid analogy, but you know, you've got plenty of space within what you have. And how are you going to market all these other extensions? You need to focus on marketing the .eg brand, focus on that. When that's a roaring success, and I come back to Cairo and every single billboard and shop is using a .eg domain, then you can, you know.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. The number one threat is probably spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah.
Trying to do too much. Right, so I think you need to focus and prioritize what are the top 1 or 2 or 3 things that we could do, not have 10 things. Just focus on a few.
Because you know, the thing is this: you might have however many number of subdomains you have, but like for example, gov.eg, the treatment of those is different. It's limited, it's restricted, and that's good.
Yeah, if we had gone through a more formal SWOT analysis, all these lists are good, but you would start to go down and say, here are things we deliberately will not do. We've made this decision not to worry about, I don't know, we're not going to focus on IDS right now, we're going to focus on alphanumeric, right? So you have to not only decide what is your priority, you also explicitly decide what's not going to be your priority. So it's part of the priority.
So you've got limited resources. Everybody has limited resources. So you could say, okay, year 1, we will focus on these 3 things. And we think we can execute one fully in year 1. Number 2 is going to take us a couple of years. Number 3 is going to take us a couple of years. Then in year 2, you can add something else maybe. You know, you don't try to do 20 things at once because you won't get any of them done.
Any other comments? All right. We're breaking for lunch. Is anyone not coming back after lunch? Anybody? You will all come back at 2:30? All right. I want to make sure that we do have, I'll tell you real quick, because I want you to think about it. We have the feedback form this week is a little different from what you've been filling out. It has all the same questions, but this time we want you to answer it for the entire week, not just for the one day. And then we added more questions on the back. And this requires you to do some thinking, all right? So I'll tell you, I'll read out loud the questions so maybe you can think about it. Number 1 is, should we have spent more time on certain topics? And if so, which ones? So that's one area that we want to get your feedback on. Number 2, should we have spent less time on some topics? And which ones? So are there any topics you wanted us to talk more about or less about? You can think about that. Number 3, were there any topics that were missing? So did you have expectations about something that we never talked about? And then finally, do you have any suggestions for the organizers about what we might add or do different in the next class? Don't mention the temperature of the room. All right, that's not allowed. But any suggestions you have about what we could do different next time?
We know the temperature of the room is a problem, but
so that's we really, really appreciate you giving a lot of thought to those kind of questions too. All right, thanks guys. See you in an hour.
okay, you can do the presentation.
All right, all right.
So we need to get an Egyptian to stand here as
I
well.
want to use my phone.
An Egyptian.
Me? Or
Maybe we can photo that.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, you want to. Anyway, so look here. Got your certificate.
Trying to receive
I'll send it.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done. Yay. Maria Said.
Oh,
I can't pronounce that. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Hazem. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Why am I turning this is so cool. Yeah, she can help with the Rehab?
Rehab.
Who's Rehab?
She just stepped in.
Okay, so Rehab's not here. Okay, moving on.
Dean.
I was asking Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Maybe you want a picture? Yeah, sure. I can hold it like that.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
And Tom.
I'm fine, I'm fine.
Okay, so I'm now the camera. Photographer for the event.
Much. Congratulations.
Okay, enough with the photos.
As many photos as you want. As many angles as you want.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
He wants us, what he wants is to put a big encircle logo on all the photos for him.
Thank you. Done?
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
You should put these.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Congratulations.
This is going to go towards my Isaka CPE.
Yeah.
Dina.
Into an Isaka photo? Okay. Just my CPE.
Okay.
That's what I give you when you come to my system. Just to
Oatmeal, all right. This is to help us to digest things. Okay.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you for trying to fix me.
Marine.
Thank you.
Idris.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Hamad.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Looks that way.
Jane. They are not in any particular different.
This is random. Okay? It wasn't that we decided to make you wait.
Thank you.
Who's left?
Muhammad.
Okay, he'll turn up eventually.
Muhammad also from the ITI. Here we have from ITI. So we're missing the ITI book. Roderick from the I think he left. Yeah. Muhammad Salah.
Muhammad from
Oh, right, okay. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We really enjoyed this week. I've enjoyed and appreciate your attention. And so, certainly helpful for me. Hopefully it was helpful for you, too. If anyone didn't get a chance to do a photo, we'll certainly be around if you want to do that as well. But thank you. We're done for the week. Thank you. If you could finish those feedback forms if you could. Again, there's no hurry if you want to spend more time on it. We'd love to get your feedback.
Okay, just a few words to say thank you to Tom and Michele in the name of everyone that attended and in the name of the DNS Center, Entrepreneurship Center. Thank you. Hope to see you in other courses again with us. And thank you so much.
Thank you.